Hey everybody, what's going on? My name is Galaxy and welcome to today's video. Now, I'm sure as you can tell by the title, we're going to be going over a build. We're going over the Dark Magic, kind of critical hit, just pure damage build for the Graveborn / Spore Warden combo. Also, before we start, I will mention that we are going to be on Chaos 20, so everything you're seeing here is max level, the hardest it can pretty much get. Okay, now, right before we get started and I show you guys everything, I will just show you a quick little display of how this thing performs. Now, I'm doing an obelisk, so that way we can fight some regular enemies, some medium enemies, and a boss, so you can kind of get a feel for how this is going to perform against all types. As you can see, the throw damage of this pretty much kills people, the smaller goobs, in one shot every single time. Ammo regen caught me there a little bit, but literally just one gun is going to kill every single one of these dudes. Oh, boss is here, so we'll pop our skills, our spell, and our action skill, and then even without using the throw damage, which will, alright, which will do a lot more damage. I think it took 3 hits at least with the gluttony here, and that's the reason I chose to show the build off on this boss on Chaos 20, is because the main weapon we're going to be using is going to be the gluttony here, and this is the boss that drops it. So if you don't have one of these and you need one for the build, just head on over to Queen's Gate, and in the part of the map where the ocean went away, you'll find this obelisk, and that boss there drops it. So let's go ahead and hop into the build itself. I'll start out with the gear. Over here on the left, I'm going to start with the main things that you're going to really need for the build, and then we can talk about stuff that you can kind of choose and change out at your own discretion. So again, number 1 is going to be the Gluttony. This thing is super good, as you saw, and it deals dark magic damage, which is going to be a big aspect of this build. So the best dark magic damage gun that I know of is going to be the Gluttony, and I also have an enchantment on it to when action skill is active, increase dark magic damage by 50%, and the gun itself rolled with just 35% plus gun damage. And down at the bottom, also thrown weapons explode shortly after impact, creating a dagger storm. As you guys saw, that's what this is, and deals a hell of a lot of damage, especially with all of our damage boosts that we're going to get. The second gun that we're going to be needing a copy of, like for sure for the build, it's going to be a waste not to have, is the Ruby's Spite. Now, I'm not sure what dedicated boss this drops from. I got this from the Chaos Bunnies at the end of Chaos Chamber runs, but you can get them, I'm sure you can get it somewhere else, or there, or pretty much any world drop. Now I have this enchantment on it for companion critical hits and health, but don't worry about that. I'm just keeping that for companion build later. You yourself can make sure to get the roll with the action skill dark magic damage by 50% active, because the Ruby Spite is a dark magic weapon. Also, as you can see at the bottom, crossbolts deal 3% increased damage for each crossbolt stuck in the target, and they last for 5 seconds apiece. But it also doesn't have a cap on how many times you can stack that 3% damage bonus. So even though the gun might not seem like a lot at first, it'll really snowball and start doing a lot here at the end. Here, I'll go ahead and show you guys. Alright, so at first you can see that it shoots a widespread horizontal burst of 3 bolts, which kind of sucks. But once you get a kill, it activates the skill to where it starts homing on enemies. And again, each one of these bolts is increasing the damage dealt on that specific enemy by 3%. And you can just let this thing rip. So anyway, those are the 2 guns I'd recommend having for sure for the build. The other 2 slots, you can really choose what you want for yourself. I'd recommend dark magic damage. Obviously, as a Graveborn, we're going to be doing hella more with that than really anything else. But and honestly, one of the important things on the weapons is just making sure you get these enchantments that are going to just increase damage. Whether it's an enchantment that increases regular status or dark magic damage, either will do. I'd recommend the dark damage if you're running a dark damage weapon, because I think you'll get the most boost out of that. I'm going with the Frying Pan just because of all of the damage reduction that you get from the rear. That really helps with this build. As we're going so much pure damage, the defense does lack just a little bit, and the Frying Pan really helps make up for that, pretty much reducing all damage from the back. And again, I know I have a companion enchantment on this for the Spore Warden, but feel free to get an enchantment like this. I rock this sometimes too. Whenever... Oh, wrong thing. When action skill is active, increase dark magic damage by 50%. So get yourself a Frying Pan and get that enchantment on it instead. Next up is our amulet. We're rocking this purple just because of the pure percentage of dark magic damage that it does. I've yet to find any legendary amulets with as much dark magic bonus as this gives. That's why I still use it. Of course, the others have some unique effects. But as far as dark magic damage goes, you might want to keep your eyes out for purples. But of course, choose a legendary if you get one with higher dark magic damage or relatively similar damage, but with an added effect or something, or if you just roll pure gun damage. For our shield, I use the static charge just because it has a pretty decently high capacity. The only problem with it is the recharge delay is 8.1 seconds, which is why the capacity of the shield is so high. It's the trade-off, really. But our armor piece really gets rid of that hindrance for us quite a bit, like a lot of the trade-off for it. So what this does, the Deathless Mantle, is it reserves all but 1 health, returning 150% as ward capacity, and ward generation delay is reduced by 50%. So what that means is it takes all of our health, multiplies it by 1.5, adds that to our shield, and it reduces the amount of time that it takes the shield to start recharging by half. Plus, as you can see, I have an enchantment on the ward here that on spellcast increase gun damage by 30% for 10 seconds. And this ward regenerates by sliding, so you can get a little extra bonus ward there if you're really getting low. You start sliding away, you'll regen some shields, and it just rolled with plus 25% maximum ward, which is really helpful. Also, as you can see here on my Deathless Mantle, I rolled plus 4 into Eagle Eye, which is a skill purely for increasing gun damage and handling. So I got plus 4 onto that right off the top of my gun damage. Getting skill rolls on your Deathless Mantle for skills that you're going to be using is pretty important. You don't have to have the exact one that I do, but obviously mine really helps with gun damage. And also I rolled with plus 1 Bullseye, which helps my critical hit chance, which we are also building into. Next up, we have our rings. Now, the rings I feel to be the most useless piece of gear in the game. Not that they're completely useless, but out of all of the things that are going to add to the build, the rings are going to be the very bottom least important thing. So try to go for those last if you're really trying to beef yourself up. I'm rocking this championship ring for 100% bonus effects against bosses. Now, this ring also rolled with pistol critical hit because obviously we mainly use pistols. Well, we're going lots of critical hits, and dealing damage to a boss increases the effects by 100% for a moderate amount of time, and by effects, it means the effects of the ring we're wearing, not like all effects. So that 12.5% pistol critical hit damage when we're fighting bosses is going to go up to 25%, so it's just a little on the top there for helping with boss fights. And this second ring is to help with action skill cooldown. When ward is full, effects are increased, so it'll add 20% action skill cooldown rate. But again, I'll say that if you get a ring with just more damage or more critical hit rate for something that you use, go ahead and go with that. This isn't like the absolute top tier best thing you can get, but rings are kind of hard to get good copies of. Also, as a warning, in case anybody doesn't know, I have a couple extra legendary rings in here. So if you get anything with this dark magic efficiency roll on it, do not let it fool you. You will not be using dark magic efficiency whatsoever with this build. So what dark magic efficiency is the rate at which health gets returned to you when dealing dark magic damage. That's obviously dark magic damage's gimmick. When you deal damage with it, you get health returned to you, and dark magic efficiency is the rate at which you get it returned to you. Now, that is not going to help you at all when you're rocking this Deathless Mantle, because you only have 1 health to begin with. So make sure to stay away from anything this is dark magic efficiency, as it's going to give you no bonuses on absolutely anything. And for our spell, we're going to be using the Buffmeister, as that just helps with literally everything with this spell. That's going to help with your movement speed, with your reload speed, with your fire rate, with your ammo regen. It's just incredibly good. I'll go ahead and here and pop it real quick. You can see the difference in how fast I move around, how fast I shoot, how fast my ability to throw out and stack piles of gluttonies is. It helps with all of that, plus it'll really help proccing enchantments that have to deal with spell activation or spell cooldown, plus the Buffmeister itself is just really quick with its spell cooldown already. So that's the gear we're going to be using. Just a super quick recap, you're going to want to get yourself a Gluttony and a Ruby Spike. That's going to be dark magic damage. You're going to want enchantments that on action skill activation increase dark magic damage by 50% or gun damage or something like that by 50%. You rock your melee weapon as the Frying Pan to help with our defense and pretty much reduce all your damage coming from the rear. You're going to want an amulet that rolls with really high dark magic damage and our regular gun damage. You're going to want to rock the Buffmeister to help with all kinds of stuff, your reload, your movement speed, your ammo regen. Pretty much everything is going to get a small buff. You're going to want to get a static charge for the high shield capacity, the 25% maximum ward, the regeneration while sliding, and make sure you get that enchantment on there that increases like dark magic or gun damage by so much for however long. You're going to want to use the Deathless Mantle. I'll explain why more when we're going over the skills, while this is so important for the build. Make sure you get a Spore Warden power roll on this, not Graveborn, as the Graveborn power rolls do nothing for this build, again, because they have to deal with a lot with dark magic efficiency or companions or some stuff like that. So you're going to want to get the Spore Warden power and try to get rolls on it for skills that we'll be using. Go ahead and get yourself a ring for boss damage, because that's going to help. Pistol critical hit rate is honestly a pretty good one, but if you just get damage or dark magic, that's good too. And then the second ring is really up to you, preferably on what you want to use and how you want to use it. Again, I'd recommend just adding some damage on there. So I'm going to go through and explain what we're picking while we're picking it, so that way it makes a little more sense. We're going to start off in the Graveborn tree, because one of the big things we need to do is get down here to Lord of Edges. So the Fate Maker gains increased damage dealt and damage reduction to lower his health, which is going to be procced constantly because of our Deathless Mantle keeping us at 1 health. So we're going to start off with Faithful Thralls with 3 points, increasing our damage dealt for every companion, because we're going to automatically start off with Demi-Lich and Mushroom, and then we're at least going to get Hydras, which we'll have up to like 3 of, I believe. So that's a really big damage increase just right off the top, so we're going to take that. Then we're going to be throwing 2 points into Essence Drain here to get down to the next tree. And also that helps with getting the Buffmeister. I know the Buffmeister is already pretty quick at regenerating, but we're going to take that over the maximum health and dark magic efficiency. Then next rank, we're going to be taking 5 points right off the top into Dark Pact for dark magic damage. Right off the top, again, another 20% increase. Then on the next tree, we are not taking Dread Covenant because its ability is when the Fate Maker reaches 1 health, he immediately restores health, sacrificing a Demi-Lich. That just procs, the Demi-Lich will just kill himself and you'll get nothing because you only have 1 health, so we're not going to want to do that. We're going to want to put 3 points into the Dark Hydra, so that way we can get a even more damage buff off of this, the increase 9% per companion, so we can have up to 3 of these Dark Hydras out, and obviously that's going to be a big increase on the damage. But stay away from Stain of the Soul. I know it looks enticing right off the bat because it deals bonus dark magic damage, but keep in mind that that is for spells. The spells are not going to be doing a lot of damage anyway. The Buffmeister is for buffing us, not for dealing damage, so 4% of that is going to be infinitesimal compared to other stuff we can get. So we're going to throw 2 more points into Essence Drain to get that spell cooldown up a bit more, so we can get down to the next tier. We're going to be taking Ascension. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a good idea because we only have 1 health, increased the maximum health, and blah 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 is increased for a short duration. But let me remind you that because of the Deathless Mantle, 150% of our health gets returned to the ward as ward capacity. So even though we only have 1 health, this should in theory increase our ward capacity instead of our health, and it'll even give us a bigger increase than the health would because it gives 150% of that. So we're going to take 3 points into that. We're going to top off Essence Drain and put 1 point into Mortal Vessel. Again, I know that's for maximum health, but that'll just increase our shields, and we have to have those points anyways to get down to Lord of Edges, and none of these skills give any bonus whatsoever. So then we're going to take Lord of Edges, and we're done with the Graveborn skill tree. Then over here, on Eagle Eye, we're going to throw 5 points into it. That's my skill that I have the +4 into, that increases gun damage and gun handling. Then again, right off the bat, we're going to take 5 points into Bullseye, because it increases the gun critical hit, and it increases companion critical hit, but obviously we're mostly just looking for the gun. So we're going to take that, and with my +1, we're up to 60% gun critical hit chance increase. Then, in the next skill tree, we're going to be taking Medicinal Mushroom, because that is just too good not to take, especially whenever you're playing solo. For 1 point, having the ability for your companion to res you is really good, plus he's super good at it. He's hardly ever really dead. We're also going to be taking Magazine Size. We're going to put all 3 points into that, so that extra ammo increase will help with the Gluttony, because its magazine size is only 22. With it being a Feriar weapon, its damage is based off of the remaining ammo in the magazine. So the more ammo we have in the magazine, the more damage this tornado will do, and then obviously the more ammo we have in the magazine, potentially the more damage it can potentially do. Then to get down to the rest of the tree, we're going to be putting a point into Windrunner. That increases our movement speed and fire rate. Fire rate obviously is an overall just a damage increase, and movement speed just a little bonus from that. So once we got 1 point into that, we're going to move down. We won't be taking Thrill of the Hunt because that is just for companion damage, so make sure to avoid taking Thrill of the Hunt. I know it says gun critical hits, but we're not really looking for our companions to get critical hits. We're going to take all 3 points into Called Shot, because aiming down the sights will increase our gun damage. As you can see, we get 5.3% gun damage and 5.1 resistance, and you can have 10 stacks of that. So 50% gun damage, 50% damage resistance while aiming down sights. Then to help get down to the next tree, we're going to put 1 and 2 more points into Windrunner. That'll max that out, and again, just increasing fire rate and our movement speed. Then once this is open, you're going to want to take Headhunter, which gun damage dealt to critical hit areas is increased just for 1 point, another 25% critical hit damage. And we're going to throw our last 2 points into Wrath of Nature, which is whenever the Fate Maker deals ability damage to an enemy, the affected enemy takes increased damage from all sources for a short duration, and that increase is 36%. So whenever we do damage with our ability, the tornadoes, whenever they do damage to somebody, it'll kind of slag them like it did in Borderlands 2, and they'll take 30% increased damage. For hero stats, as you can see, loot luck has been glitched out, so ignore my low loot luck. I went ahead and put a lot of points into strength and dexterity just to increase that crit chance by quite a bit, and then to increase crit damage by quite a bit. We're going to be doing lots of criticals with the gluttony and its tornado effect, so the more that you have, the better. And then I also put a decent amount of points into wisdom to affect status damage, because obviously the tornadoes do status damage, and it'll buff that continuously. Here's my myth rank if you guys want to see. Obviously, spread your stuff throughout your own myth rank with whatever points you have available. But in Blade Master, I'm going to highly recommend buffing up your dark magic damage. In the Archmage tree, I'm going to recommend buffing up your status effect chance. In the Deadeye tree, go ahead and level up your dexterity and magazine size. And in the Druid tree, I just level up loot luck. And to wrap the video off, I'll run into a Chaos 20 featured run to show you guys how this thing actually performs against stuff in the Chaos Chamber. Alright, so you're going to want to keep your Buffmeister and your Tornadoes up as much as you possibly can. As soon as they're on cooldown, just make sure to pop them, and that'll keep your damage buff up as much as you can get it. On the smaller enemies, I like to just aim and fire, just because the gun damage itself is going to be plenty enough to kill them. On the guys that get a little bigger, like here's the Gyro one statue, has a lot of health, just shoot a bullet, throw your Gluttony, and that thing will just kill itself within a few magazines. Here, this Quartz should have a bigger enemy for us. Super bad at this Death Knight. For these guys, I try to use the, if you would hold still, and there he goes. Also, I should have mentioned earlier that the Gluttony, whenever you have health, whenever you throw it, it'll consume a part of it to start the effect. But whenever you're running the Deathless Mantle, that effect really is taken out of the equation. You don't lose any health whenever you throw it, so there's no downside. As you can see there, you can down yourself with it if you shoot too close. So make sure to keep just a small bit of distance whenever you're going to use the reload throwing dagger tornado feature. But anyways, that'll be it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions or comments or concerns or anything or suggestions, make sure to let me know down in the comments below. I read pretty much all of them, and I'll totally respond to you if you guys have some criticism or any good ideas that you think might help, and I'll be sure to add them to the description or an update video in the future. Anyways, last thank you, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace out.